just now. And so, well, first of all, it's great to see so many people here and from so many diverse contexts. Thank you very much for coming to, this is our first EAP, sorry, TED in EAP talk of this academic session 22-23. I'm Carol McDermott. I'm one of the co-chairs of the TED and EAP SIG. Here you'll also see Angeliki and Raffaella who are on our committee. I think more of our members may be joining as we go through. Yeah, some people can come, some people can't. But really, without further ado, I could start talking about our talk today. So for those of you that have been to our SIG events before, we're interested in teacher education for EAP practitioners, lecturers, how you decide to name yourself. We have two constituent groups, one that's particularly interested in individual development, but also part of the aims of the SIG is to look at what do we do as educators, people working in CPD and EAP teacher education, how do we go about developing? And so we're really delighted today to have Angela Hakim talk to us today. She's going to talk specifically about developing a CPD program for EAP practitioners in a very specific context. Angela is in the US. She'll tell you a little bit more about her context in a minute or two, but works with a transnational education context. She's just about to submit her PhD, so I'm sure she's very, very busy. So it's even more welcome that we have her here today. And so first, I'd just like to pass over to Angela. Again, thank you for coming, and thank you, Angela, for giving your talk.
Thank you very much for the warm welcome. I'm really thrilled to be here with you today, and of course, share my own experiences in developing the program that I'll talk about today, but I'm really interested in having a discussion afterwards as well. So I'm just sharing my PowerPoint here. I'll assume you can see it unless you start shouting at me otherwise. Okay, great. I'll give a little bit of information about me and then turn to the focus of the talk today. So as Carol mentioned, I am in my final year. Again, I hesitate to say that because it's not the end until it's the end, but I'm in my final year, hopefully, of the PhD program at King's College London, where my research focuses on a single case study of a university in Lebanon, the institution that I'll be talking about today, which has been undergoing a process of implementing university-wide academic literacy provision in the form of EAP modules, which I'll describe today. In order to make clear my own position, again, I had kind of shifting roles in this university. It has been the case study focus of my PhD research. I have taught there in the past, and of course, I've been carrying out research there as well. I started there as a consultant and then transitioned to working as a coordinator and EAP tutor, and then continued my research and scholarship there as well. One of the roles that I had was to support EAP tutors who were going to be developing materials and teaching in the university-wide credit-bearing EAP modules, which I will describe. So that's where this work all kind of comes together. So I'll be focusing today, not necessarily on my PhD work, but my practice-related experiences, which of course have overlap with my PhD research as well. And I'll be focusing on the development of an in-house continuing professional development program at this one university. We're going to start out with some reflections, and it's been so nice to see in the chat where everyone is joining from, but I will ask you to share a little bit more about your own experiences getting into teaching EAP as well as with teacher development, because it will help me kind of know how to shape the talk today. And I think it will be good for us to have some time to reflect on our own experiences before focusing on one particular context, which might differ and might have several overlaps with your own context. We'll explore EAP practitioner development and continuing professional development, as well as I'll spend quite a bit of time describing the design of an in-house CPD program, and discuss future directions and implications for other contexts, particularly for those which are set in low resource contexts and EMI contexts. But there will be, as you'll see, implications that can be drawn across multiple contexts. At the end, we will move into breakout rooms for about 10 or 15 minutes before we come back to the main room and discuss. And I'll give you some questions as sort of food for thought to discuss in the breakout rooms. And of course, you'll also have time to share your own responses and connections with what has been discussed in the talk today. So I really do want this to be a conversation. Of course, I will be talking for the bulk in the beginning for about 40 minutes, but I really do want this to be a conversation. So I hope that in the last 30 minutes, we'll have lots of time to discuss together. As I said, I wanted to start out today getting to know a little bit more about you all and your experiences and where you're coming from. And I think it would be good for us to spend about 5 or 10 minutes just sharing a little bit about our own background in EAP, in teaching EAP. So I would just ask you if you could scan the QR code on the PowerPoint slide, which will take you to a Padlet. And there you can post your responses to the questions that are on the screen. Again, this will really be helpful for me in kind of continuing on with the talk today, but I think it will be good for all of us to kind of reflect on our own experiences before focusing on one particular context. So I just ask you to answer as many of these questions as you would like to in the next 5 minutes. So I really would like to know about the typical trajectory into teaching EAP in your context. And we have such a wide variety of contexts. I think this will be really useful information and interesting for all of us to see the types of backgrounds and qualifications that EAP teachers have in your own context. And then, of course, what kinds of development and continuing professional development opportunities are available and desired for EAP teachers in your context. I know that's too much to answer on a Padlet in 5 to 7 minutes. But again, you can be selective in terms of what you respond to and how much detail you give. So I have the Padlet pulled up on another device, which I will be looking at. I'm really eager to see your responses there. So please do spend the next 5 to 7 minutes writing down your own reflections in response to these questions. I am happy to post the link. I'm glad you reminded me about that. So I'm going to stop sharing for just a moment so I can share the link in the chat. Thank you for reminding me to do that. Let's see here. I do have the link. Let me just copy it and post it into the chat, and then I'll share my screen again. And there's the link in the chat. And I'll just post the slide again so the QR code and questions are there. And I can see some posts about qualifications and backgrounds. I'd love to see a little bit about CPD that might be available in your context too. Okay, we've still got about 5 more minutes to share these initial reflections and see lots of posts here so far. It's really helpful to see. Good. We have about 2 more minutes to share your reflections on the Padlet. Thank you again for sharing. Okay, wonderful. If you haven't been able to post in the Padlet just yet, of course, you can still continue to do so, and we'll continue. We will look back at that as well when we go on to discuss at the end of the talk as well. It's wonderful to see some of your experiences here, and it looks like many of you, understandably working in maybe similar national contexts, have similar qualifications and backgrounds and trajectories into teaching EAP. But given the diverse context that we're all coming from, I really wanted to see other experiences that may be represented and maybe differ slightly. So some of those I can see here as well. Even within those who come from the same national context, of course, there are differences in terms of backgrounds, roots into EAP, and some continuing professional development, which of course differ by institution. Well, again, I thought it would be really useful to do that before jumping into focusing on one particular context, which might differ quite a lot from some of the experiences that you have. And it seems from the Padlet that is the case. Well, I thought after this reflection, it would be good to kind of step back and make the case for what I'm discussing today. So today I will be giving a reflective, practice-based account of the development of a CPD program in one university. And I thought that this would be useful to share because there is certainly a need in scholarship, in our conversations as EAP practitioners, and in research for a greater focus on EAP practitioners. I think it was Diane Belcher who said, our own community is the one about which we know the least. And I think that's certainly true. This is certainly true for EAP practitioners who may be working in a diverse range of contexts globally as well, which of course differs significantly. It's true that they differ significantly within one national context. And of course, that's just expanded when we think about the various contexts that exist globally. I would say that there's also a growing need for continuing professional development and a focus on that development in some contexts which are transitioning to using English as a medium for instruction in subject courses, where English language teachers who may have been teaching English as a foreign language, English for general purposes, may have seen their roles shift into teaching English for academic purposes. And I'll talk more about that a little bit later. I think it's also true that, this focus is important because our practices and professional development are significantly shaped and impacted by local contextual factors. And so kind of spreading the conversation to certain contexts, which maybe haven't been highlighted in some of the literature about EAP practitioners and professional development is really useful. And this is true as regards low resource contexts. In particular contexts, we usually think of these contexts in terms of, for example, poverty rates, income levels, access to materials and technology, for example, but we can also consider low resource contexts and the experiences of practitioners who may have few opportunities for formal continuing professional development. It's true in many contexts, even contexts which have received some of the most focus for EAP practitioners, such as the UK, that we don't know that much about what continuing professional development exists for EAP practitioners. And that's certainly true across broader places where EAP teachers work as well. Again, as I said, I think this is an area ripe for practitioner-led accounts of practice in the field, those experiences which may resonate with others working in a broad set of contexts. And this is the same for scholarship writing. So I hope in the talk today that I can contribute to a growing body of practitioner scholarship focused on the needs, practices, and experiences of practitioners of us working in global contexts, a diverse set of contexts indeed, and highlight the development of one continuing professional development program in an EMI university where EAP tutors have been transitioning from teaching primarily English for general purposes courses to courses focused in English for academic purposes. This conversation is part of a larger conversation as well on EAP practitioner formation, which has been conceptualized by Ian Bruce as including initial teacher training, which many of you highlighted as a crucial component to getting into TEEP on the Padlet. So, for example, postgraduate certificates and diplomas in English language teaching. But of course, this ongoing long process of formation also includes experiential practice, ongoing professional development, scholarship, and research as well. And it's been highlighted that this ongoing process can be long and continuous. Within this process of EAP practitioner formation, this kind of overall development as an EAP practitioner, of course, it's been highlighted that EAP practitioners face several challenges transitioning from English for general purposes, English as a foreign language, to teaching specialized EAP. And that initial teacher training is simply not enough. Of course, there are specialist TEEP qualifications, and a few of you mentioned some of those TEEP qualifications and development opportunities that exist within Bali, for example. But some of those may lack visibility to practitioners in global contexts, which I know that is something that is being addressed currently. But there are, of course, few TEEP qualifications on offer. And again, these do lack visibility or accessibility or affordability in some global contexts. Given this background in the kind of ongoing needs of EAP practitioners, the challenges they face, and the fact that there may be few TEEP qualifications which are accessible, it's been argued that ongoing opportunities for development are highly valued by EAP practitioners, which is evidenced by the fact that we're all here today as well. But again, there's little evidence or practitioner accounts available regarding what development opportunities and CPD exist for EAP practitioners. And again, that's true of the UK context where Fitzpatrick and colleagues write about, but it's true in a diverse range of contexts globally as well. Well, I'm going to talk about one particular context today, and I'll try to include enough detail that the context is a bit clear, but of course I don't want to overload you with information. So if you do have any questions about the context, then please do ask your questions in the chat, and we'll have time to discuss this context further as well. Yes, I'm glad, Carol, thank you for posting in the chat that definition of English medium instruction. I kind of glossed that on the first screen, but of course, I'll describe that a little bit more here now. So thank you very much for sharing that definition in the chat. So the institution where my PhD research and my practice, which I'll talk about today, and the CPD program developed was in a university in Lebanon. I'm not talking about my PhD research today, but the continuing professional development program that I described today is definitely related to my PhD research, and I'll kind of talk about the connections between those. So the university, as I said, is set in the country of Lebanon, which is a small country in the Near East. The population is somewhere around close to 7 million, I believe. This country, I think it's important to note, is multilingual, and it has a complex educational and linguistic landscape, as many countries do. A few features about that educational and linguistic context that I think are important to note are that students coming out of secondary schools very often have attended secondary schools which are predominantly either French medium or English medium, and then they take the other one of those languages as a primary second language. So they will have taken English language courses, English as a foreign language courses, or French as a foreign language courses throughout their primary and secondary school years. They also will have had Arabic medium instruction in select subjects, for example, social studies and Arabic language and literature. So the students are multilingual, and their education has been delivered through either French medium or English medium when they come out of secondary schools. I think it's really important to highlight as well regional and local trends in terms of English medium instruction. So over the past 20 years, there has been a significant amount of growth for English medium instruction in Lebanon. And that is in instruction, assessment, learning activities, materials and resources, which are delivered through the medium of English in subject courses. So for example, in physics modules, in biology modules, in business modules. EMI has been implemented in a variety of ways in universities in Lebanon, but I think it's important to note as well that it has a long history in Lebanon. So the oldest university in Lebanon is also an English medium instruction university, and it's been delivering EMI instruction for something like 150 years. But there are at least 10 other universities in Lebanon which identify as fully English medium instruction, and another dozen universities that use English either as a partial medium of instruction or in select modules and departments. And these are not well defined. So there are other contexts in which EMI is defined in terms of the percentage of instruction or the number of modules or departments that are identified or designated as EMI, but there's no national sort of policy. There's no policy at the university either that kind of identifies a minimum amount of instruction or assessment that has to be carried out in English for it to be considered EMI. So there's a diversity in terms of how it's implemented. At the institution where this CPD program took place, there's been an increase certainly in EMI over the last 15 to 20 years. And for that reason, the university has decided to provide more support for students in the form of English language modules and EAP modules. So as part and parcel of a move toward English medium instruction and to respond to the needs of students regarding English medium instruction and assessment carried out in English, the university has required students to take a certain number of English language modules. So the English department delivers a 5-level English program. Again, there's an in-house placement exam that is used to place students into one of these 5 levels, the highest of which is English for academic purposes. In the past, before about 3 years ago, the highest level EAP modules were English for specific academic, English for general academic purposes, English for general academic purposes modules. So those were focused primarily on study skills and writing skills, which were considered to be transferable across multiple contexts. And of course, there's quite a lot of critique that can be said about these English for general academic purposes modules. And this was seen in the university overall, where there were concerns raised by those within the English department and deans and faculty members and students across the university who argued that they wanted to have English language support, which would be more relevant for the assessments that they were conducting in their English medium modules or programs. And I have kind of broadened that here to include not just instruction, but also assessment and learning materials as well. So I'll continue to use the term English medium instruction, but yes, it is broader than just instruction. And the impetus here for changing the EAP modules really came from the fact that the students were beginning to be required to conduct their assessments in English. So the EAP tutors in this university have a diverse range of backgrounds, but the majority of them have a first degree in translation studies, which I know is quite different from maybe some of the undergraduate degrees that EAP practitioners have in other contexts. So many of the students coming out of the translation studies program within this university or others within Lebanon then go on to pursue a master's degree and a postgraduate teaching certificate in English as a foreign language. To my knowledge, there are no EAP modules, TEAP programs, or professional bodies within Lebanon. There are regional organizations focused on writing centers and TESOL, for example, TESOL Arabia and the MENA Writing Centers Association, but nothing particular to EAP. The EAP tutors do have quite a lot of experience, between 5 years and 20 years of experience teaching English as a foreign language and English for general academic purposes as well. Well, as I mentioned, the university has been transitioning for a couple of decades to a greater role for English in the university, including a greater role for instruction, learning materials, and assessment that are done through the medium of English. As part of this overall move, the university appointed an executive level advisor to work on the implementation of further English medium instruction modules, departments, and programs, and also to consider the redesign of the English language program and beginning with the highest level EAP module. As part of this, the university consulted my PhD supervisor and me. And I will say that, of course, I'm here presenting today, but my PhD supervisor, Ursula Wingate, who has been a wonderful mentor and colleague in terms of this consultancy, had a major role in this as well. So in terms of the consultancy, again, the university came to us to advise on the redesign of their highest level EAP module in response to student and staff feedback about the relevance of their highest level EAP module. And we advised on an approach that is based on one approach for discipline-specific, genre-based teaching and materials in EAP modules that follows Tribble and Wingate 2013. So there were 3 phases to this consultancy, which I'll overview here and then kind of provide more detail about on later slides. The first of this related to collaboration with multiple stakeholders in the university, again, in terms of executive leadership, in terms of the English language department, and also in terms of discipline specialists. And this began in terms of collaboration with deans, directors, coordinators in the English department and that faculty level advisory team, as well as one subject lecturer in the School of Engineering. And then that continued on across other disciplines as well. So I'll describe this process a little bit more on the next slide. But we collaborated with all of these stakeholders and with the subject lecturer in particular to develop a set of materials and advise on changes in terms of the approach that was being taken in the highest level EAP module as well. And I'll describe this process on the next slide. Following this process of collaboration with multiple stakeholders and the development of a set of learning materials, which were specific to one cohort of students, discipline and genre that they were expected to write in English, we developed a workshop for EAP tutors who would be carrying out the same process and teaching the EAP modules that were being redesigned to be English for specific academic purposes modules and targeted toward their discipline area and one assessment or more within their discipline program. And I'll describe that workshop in more detail as well. The third phase of this consultancy was the pilot implementation, which took place over the last academic year in the School of Engineering, as well as the Faculty of Sciences. These schools and faculties were chosen by the university because there was great interest in implementing these discipline-specific EAP modules, again, which were inclusive of all students in those programs, and which were based on a key assessment that all students had to carry out in English. And then this continues, of course, in a phased rollout this year in the Department of Economics and School of Medicine, and will continue to be rolled out to others as well. So I've kind of given an overview, of the consultancy, but I do want to provide a little more detail about the process of collaboration and materials development. So again, this process is adapted from Tribble and Wingate. And it really began with following conversation with the multiple stakeholders in the English language program. We also met with a discipline specialist in mechanical engineering, one subdiscipline that is within the School of Engineering. So these initial discussions really focused on the identification of particular target genre that the students are required to complete in English. This target genre for this subdiscipline, mechanical engineering, is an engineering design report in the typology given by Nessie and Gardner. This was selected again because it is required of all students to be done in English in their fourth year of a 5-year engineering program. So prior to this, students had an option to complete the assignment either in French or English, and the School of Engineering decided to make it required that all students complete this assignment in English. So we knew that choosing this genre would be, of course, a key assessment for all students in that cohort. We met with the discipline specialist who, of course, gave us an overview of the expectations and conventions of the genre and provided us with multiple course documents and assessment materials, the assignment prompt, the marking criteria, for example. He also collected a set of student exemplars, both high scoring and low scoring, and commented on them regarding how the students had or had not met expectations and conventions of the genres, these subgenres within the engineering design report. So he gave us all of these course documents and assignment and assessment materials, collected a set of 12 high scoring and low scoring genre exemplars. We would have loved to have more of those, of course, but that's what we were able to begin with. We then carried out genre move analysis to identify the conventions, the lexicogrammatical features, the macro structure of the assignment, as well as the sort of expectations that the subject lecture had for students to fulfill their requirements of the assignment. Following this move analysis, an analysis of these course documents and discussions with the subject lecture, we developed a set of learning materials which were targeted for sub-genres in this overall engineering design report. And I'll show an example of what the materials look like next from Tribble and Wingate. Unfortunately, I'm not able to show a set of examples from the ones that we developed for the engineering design report, but I will show an example that's been published in Tribble and Wingate. After we developed one set of learning materials, we went back to the subject lecture to have a discussion about the learning materials and the analysis that we had conducted to confirm features of the genre, conventions, and practices that were typical in that department. And of course, this process can continue in multiple iterations, but we did this initially in one round with this subject lecture. So this is an example. Again, this is not one that we produced as part of this process, but one that's been published in Tribble and Wingate. But you can see a kind of overview of what the materials include. So here you can see they include task instructions. They include one example of a sub-genre, the introduction from an assignment in one course. They would be given, for example, 3 or 4 high-scoring student examples, which are annotated with commentary on the moves that are present in each of these, and they're numbered within the text, so they are identifiable for the students. So the students are able to look at move analysis for a few examples, and then in a group, work together to try to identify the moves that they've seen in the texts that are annotated in one that has not been annotated. So there's this kind of discovery student-led analysis that occurs here as well. So following the development of this set of learning materials and continued collaboration with the discipline specialist, we also developed an EAP tutor workshop. So there were initially 20 EAP tutors in this workshop in the university, and this was targeted to EAP tutors who would be kind of continuing a similar process for collaborating with discipline specialists, developing a set of genre-based materials, and of course, teaching in the EAP modules afterward. This initial workshop was a 2-hour workshop that was held on Microsoft Teams. We weren't able to travel at the time, but it was held for EAP tutors on Microsoft Teams. It was not meant to be a one-and-done workshop, but an introduction to the kind of discipline-specific approach that we had been consulting on. So we started off with an overview of the approach, which is discipline-specific and genre-based, as well as introducing the process of collaboration, which I've given an overview of today. And we also wanted to give an overview of learning materials and pedagogical strategies that could be used along with those materials. For example, the teaching learning cycle and student move analysis. We did give an overview of some empirical evidence in support of the approach. And then we introduced the target genre, the engineering design report. And we wanted to give kind of an overview of the purpose of the genre, as well as the macro structure of the engineering design report, because many of those EAP tutors would be working with students on that engineering design report in the future, as well as other genres for other disciplines. We did, at the end of the workshop, have time for small groups of workshop participants to work collaboratively to develop one genre-based task. But of course, using a packet that we had given them, including course documents, marking criteria from the subject lecture, a set of student examples with comments from the subject lecture. So they developed in collaborative groups one genre-based task. At the end of the workshop, we had time for participants to share their reflections on the discipline-specific approach, on collaborating with discipline specialists, as well as their own genre knowledge and thoughts on genre-based pedagogy. Again, this was meant to be introductory, and the reflections that we gathered at the end of the workshop were used to feed forward to future continuing professional development, which I'll describe in just a moment. I described the aims of this workshop, but I think it's also important to highlight that we were really working toward supporting the EAP tutors in multiple ways in terms of collaborating with subject lecturers, which they had not done prior to this, in teaching English for general academic purposes modules in the university. But we were also working toward supporting tutors as they began to develop or continued to develop their pedagogical content knowledge of genre. So pedagogical content knowledge of genre has been conceived of by Dorothy Worden, who has identified a few different forms and dimensions of this knowledge, which include content knowledge of the genre, what genres are, and what are particular conventions, features, practices, and variations within a particular genre. Pedagogical knowledge, that is knowledge of instructional strategies such as move analysis and the teaching learning cycle. Of course, these EAP tutors had extensive experience in teaching English for general academic purposes, but we wanted to introduce them to additional pedagogical moves which could be applied and used in these discipline-specific EAP modules, which would be introduced in the following year. Another dimension is knowledge of learners, their current understanding of genres and their genre experiences. And some of that is gathered through discussions through subject lecture, through the English language faculty members that we talked with, and of course through analysis of their work as well. And of course that continues on in initial needs analysis in the course as well. And then that fourth component that Worden conceptualizes is knowledge of the curriculum, of their concurrent genres that they are engaged with, as well as past genres. And again, that comes out in discussions with department heads and subject lecturers in the subject areas. So in this workshop, it was an initial workshop with quite a few aims, but really what we were working toward is kind of introducing the EAP tutors to this discipline-specific approach and to options for collaborating with discipline lecturers and kind of working toward supporting tutors in their development, continued development of pedagogical content knowledge of genre. Well, it became very clear in the EAP tutor workshop, and as we knew already, and also came out in continuing conversations with the EAP tutors, as well as one-to-one interviews that I was conducting as part of the larger case study for my PhD work, that the tutors desired much more support, continued support, as they continued this process of working with subject lecturers, of developing these discipline-specific materials and teaching an ESAP module as well. In the one-to-one interviews, the EAP tutors expressed a desire for further support in terms of genre-based pedagogy and the development of genre-based discipline-specific materials, but they also voiced a desire for experience sharing. And so we came up with a few ideas. These were developed in consultation and collaboration with EAP tutors. And at this point, I had transitioned from teacher to consultant to coordinator of the AP program. So as part of that role, I was supporting all of the EAP tutors who were kind of going through this process of collaborating with discipline specialists, developing materials, and who would be teaching the ESAP modules. So I held one-to-one consultations on Microsoft Teams and WhatsApp app, as well, and developed a resource bank, and we held monthly check-in meetings as well. These one-to-one consultations focused on confirming features of target genres. So at this point, the EAP tutors were working on subsequent discipline areas. So other subdisciplines within the School of Engineering, for example, civil and environmental engineering, the students of which did a different kind of engineering report, as well as disciplines within the Faculty of Sciences, including biology, physics, chemistry, and mathematics. So the EAP tutors were working on very different discipline areas with different subject specialists and on very different genres as well. So we talked about the target genre, the analysis of the genre, And we also talked about and shared experiences regarding collaborating with discipline specialists. And this really provided a space for experience sharing and collaboration, but also for perhaps some form of informal mentoring, which may be underreported in the literature. Well, as I said, one of the strong desires that was voiced by the EAP tutors related to the approach, the discipline-specific approach, related to their desire for more genre-based materials and resources. So we developed a collaborative space, an EAP tutor resource bank, which was just held on OneDrive to share all of the materials that we had been developing, the original set that had been developed before the EAP tutor workshop, and all of the subsequent materials we were developing for all of the other disciplines as well. We also added their scholarship and research, some of which I'll point out in just a moment. One of the primary pieces of research that we talked about a lot was the Tribble and Wingate article that I have mentioned, and for which I have the full citation at the end of this PowerPoint slide. But we also looked at other readings which were really useful. So we did this in kind of an informal way, and we would share these on the OneDrive, and then we would sort of talk about them, things that became interesting to us in other meetings, which I'll discuss in just a minute. But the primary purpose of this resource bank was to share genre-based materials that we had been developing, as well as others that we found from multiple sources. The tutors really wanted these materials in this process, understandably, because they wanted to have a set of models to draw on themselves, and also a set that they could sort of compare with those that they were producing for subsequent disciplines as well. We also held monthly check-in meetings, and there were two overarching purposes. They fulfilled sort of normal functions of team meetings in that we were all able to kind of talk about our experiences with the syllabus, the schedule, the AP modules, how teaching was going. But more broadly, it provided a time where we share our own experiences in the process of collaborating with discipline specialists, developing these materials, and teaching the newly designed ESAP modules as well. And I'm coming to the end of the time for this kind of initial talk portion. And I'd like to just share a few reflections and possible implications and future directions. The components that I talked about today, the workshop, the one-to-one consultations, the resource bank, and the monthly meetings, could be applied across multiple range of contexts, including low resource contexts where external CPD, which requires funding, may not be available. And I've provided, again, a reflective practitioner-led account. These components do need to be further evaluated, but it's become clear to me through the one-to-one interviews, through ongoing meetings and consultations, that the EAP tutors have certainly felt more supported in the collaborative opportunities that have been provided. Again, they need to be evaluated more. I think it's also important to point out that for tutors who are working in EMI contexts where this might be particularly the case, but in any context in which practitioners may be transitioning from English for general academic purposes to discipline-specific ESAP approaches, there are affordances, certainly for genre analysis, in terms of examining specialist discourse and EAP genre-based pedagogy, which offers an approach to teaching particular features, conventions, and variations in the genres that students are engaged with and write for assessment. In terms of future directions for this continuing professional development program, as I mentioned, we had that EAP tutor resource bank, which we used as a place to share the materials that we had been developing. We also shared readings there, which were useful for us to engage with, but we did that sort of on an individual level. Again, we shared in the monthly meetings in maybe a less organized, informal way, our reflections on some of those readings. But I do think it would be useful in the future to include formalized and organized reading circles focused in this context on genre-based pedagogy, on discipline-specific approaches, which are key to this kind of initial phase of implementing a discipline-specific genre-based approach in these university-wide ESAP modules. But there's also promise, of course, for virtual cross-university mobility programs and virtual exchange programs, which are discussed by a few EAP researchers as well. These are really fruitful possible additions. Again, in this context, there are few opportunities available for external continuing professional development programs because there is no funding available. This is particularly true for the EAP practitioners who are all on part-time contracts, but it's heightened over the last few years since 2019 in this context because there has been an ongoing economic crisis. So there's just no funding available. Even if there were funding available, there are in Lebanon no EAP specific opportunities for professional development, though there are increasingly those available online, of course. I just want to kind of conclude on a positive note and say, in this context and others where there may be few opportunities for workload reductions, little financial support, possibly little institutional support, or even moral support for continuing professional development, the kind of collaborative experiential program that I've discussed today, which offers some form of informal mentorship and a program of continuing professional development, which was developed by us and delivered locally, does show substantial promise and offers kind of a hopeful note to end on here. Before we move on to discussion, I just want to mention a couple of the readings that we found really useful. So of course, that Tribble and Wingate article was foundational to our discussions, but we also found a few other materials that are focused on genre-based pedagogy to be really useful. One of them is a recently written book by Christine Tardy, which I think costs $3. I'm not sure how much it is in pounds or in euros, but it costs approximately $3, I think, at the time. So it was quite affordable for us to use as a resource to talk about in terms of genre-based pedagogy. So this is genre-based writing, what every ESL teacher needs to know. We found that to be really useful in kind of an introduction to genre-based pedagogy and pedagogical strategies. Another useful resource which came out recently is a textbook developed by Kaplan and Johns. And a future resource, which I think will be useful, is another book published by the same group, which has questions regarding genre-based pedagogy. I don't have any affiliation or benefit in any way from mentioning these. I just want to mention that we found them to be really useful. Now that we've kind of come to the end of this talk, I do want to extend the opportunity for us to reflect on this program that I've mentioned today, and kind of make connections with your own context. So I'm going to stop sharing for just a moment and ask if we can be put into breakout rooms.